Hi, I hope you're well, and I hope that recording this in this way actually works. It's the 8th of December. I hope, so the thing is, as you guys all know if you've been watching it, that I've had dash cam issues. Not dash cam, like the little thing that sticks onto the windscreen, and it doesn't actually support the weight of my phone, but I have wedged it down the bottom so that my phone's supported by my dashboard. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, also this is a new top that I bought from Zara yesterday. It's like, I probably should have ironed this bit, but it's got this really nice lacy overlay of like a stripy shirt. I really like it. It's really different, and when I picked it up I was like, oh, this really isn't like what I would normally pick, but that is what I have been getting better at, is like picking things that I don't know if this is gonna make sense, like that don't catch my eye normally, but I actually really love wearing them, and I wouldn't think to wear them, and then I wear them and I'm like, oh, that's really nice. Anyway, I feel like it's kind of tilted, but you probably can't tell. Anyway, so yeah, today I woke up at 8 o'clock. I slept in, that's sleep in for me, with Steve, and I've just been feeling not 100% the last few days, as you might know if you've been watching, and I thought, so I haven't really been going to the gym because I was still going when I wasn't feeling great, and I feel like it wasn't helping things. So I am just having a little break from the gym, which I don't personally like because the gym helps me stay sane. But anyway, so I slept in this morning, and then I really wasn't feeling well this morning. I don't know what's wrong with me. But I ate some digestive biscuits that are the half-coated in milk chocolate ones, which are my favorite, like after I had breakfast and a big bottle of water, and I felt better after that because I just felt like I needed something sweet and like oily, and I love those biscuits. So anyway, that's gonna cover my face too much. So yeah, so I was feeling better after that, and today I really just continued on with content creation. So I mapped out all of the emails, blog posts, podcast episodes, and was there something else? I think that was it, that I wanted to create for the rest of the year. And I've given myself the first 10 days of the month to create all the content for the month. And actually, when I looked at my calendar, I only started the content creation on the 4th and we'll be finishing on the 10th. So it's really only, 6 days. So if I can create 6 days, all my content for the month in 6 days, like as much as I can. There's some things I can't do, like in my weekly emails, I like to give you guys an update on what I've been listening to, what I've been watching and all of that, so I won't know that for the whole month. I really like that, to be an honest, like what I've recently just listened to, but everything that I can create ahead of time, and also my YouTube videos, I obviously create them day by day. Everything else, I really would absolutely love to have it all created within the first few days of the month, so that I can spend the rest of the month on marketing and business growth and like all the other things that I've previously been too busy for. And the reason I've been too busy for them is because I've been scared of doing them, basically. And so I've just self-sabotaged by letting myself get stressed about those really easy little things, so that I don't have time for the important stuff that's more challenging. So I've really been working, and if you've been watching these, like, I'm so glad I'm documenting this, because you would have seen me spin out for a whole month about not having enough time to even upload my YouTube videos, and now the way that I'm doing it, it takes me like maybe 2.5 hours, and I was like, it takes 100% of my time. Like, I'm just so glad to be documenting my progress, so you can see like just the whole journey of it, instead of me being like, this is how I organize my time, bam, you can see me struggling for months. So anyway, I am planning to do all my content creation in the first 10 days, and I was actually saying that I was wanting to share my blog writing process. So maybe I'm still like 20 minutes away from work, so maybe I will chat about that now. So today I just wrote the emails, like as much as I could of the emails that are going out over the rest of the month, which there are 4 of. And then I did my bit of the household cleaning, very exciting. I cleaned our bathroom and put away my fresh clothes, freshly washed clothes, and all of that kind of thing. So, yeah, my blog writing process. If you have a blog and you have been struggling, this is what I'm finding has been working for me. If you don't have a blog, then maybe the rest of this video is going to be very boring for you. But I know a lot of you do have blogs, or you want to have your own blogs. So I thought I would share what I used to do and then what I do now, so that you can sort of see the difference. And my experience is totally different. It's so much easier now. Also, part of that comes with repetition, and that now I've written hundreds of blog posts, so of course, in a sense, it's going to be easier than when I first started. But I'm kind of comparing this to like 6 months ago, when I at that time had also already had a lot of practice. So I feel like, you know, it's not like comparing day one beginner to me now. It's comparing like me 6 months ago, who'd already had a blog for a few years, to me now. So what I was doing previously, and actually I was doing this until like a month ago, really, until the last few weeks. So I used to, with my writing a blog post, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna write a blog post. Then I'd think like, what should I write about? When I was thinking like, what should I write about, I was always trying to be the writer and the editor, like the boss, at the same time. So as soon as I had an idea, I would critique it. And because I really used to struggle with self-doubt, which I feel like I really don't struggle with much now at all, but anyway, that's a huge thing. I was just constantly critiquing it, and it was really challenging to even get an idea off the ground because I was so critical. And it was really hard to get the ideas because I knew that I was going to be so critical that I didn't even want to have an idea that would be criticized by myself. So I just would hold back on my ideas that I would think of, because I'd just shoot them down before I even could get them off the ground. So once I had an idea, finally, then I would sit down and just write it. And I would just not give myself any kind of time restriction. I would just sort of edit as I went. So this is probably the part of it I'm still working on, but I would edit, like I'd write a sentence, then I'd edit it, then I'd edit it, then I'd edit it, then I'd write the second sentence, edit it. And it's not like it's as simple as doing that for every sentence. Then I go back to a sentence, edit that, keep jumping around. Then I was so critical that it really was hard to even get things to a point where I could, oh, I need to slow down. Just going into the school zone, and every single day there's a cop in this school zone. What was I going to say? Oh, I still have like barely any fuel. Need to fill it up. So yeah, I was just super self-critical, would edit it as I went, and I can't remember what I was going to say about, it was really painful. And then if I got to, the big revelation I had maybe a few months ago is that it's so challenging, and by now I've pretty much found my voice. So if you read a blog post of mine, it probably sounds pretty similar to me talking, but I found that even though I'd figured out my voice, if I'm ever writing a blog post where I'm trying to give advice, I really struggle to write it because I'm like, so what I mean, and a lot of my blog posts I give advice. Part of the reason I really always try to speak in first person is because if I'm trying to give general broad advice, it's really challenging, and everyone has a different situation, and then you don't want to make any general statements that could be wrong. It's just really hard to write that way. But I found that when I speak in first person, and then sometimes I end up, like a lot of the time it ends up being giving advice, but I give it starting with talking in first person, it's 20 times easier to write. So if you've been struggling and you're writing blog posts where you're saying you should do this, you should do that, people hate reading that stuff. Like, it's much more interesting to read a story about someone, to hear about their personal experience and how it's worked for them, than all of this you should do this advice, because anyone can say, oh, you should do this, but to hear that someone's actually doing it themselves is much more inspiring, much more helpful. So tip, if you are struggling to write and you've been trying to write advice posts in a you should kind of tone, you might find it easier to change it to a more conversational, here's what works for me. And regardless of whether you're talking about personal development like I am, fashion, beauty, whatever, instead of saying you should always use this mascara, you can say this is the mascara I really love using because blah 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 blah. And it just, I feel for me, because it's more specific, it's just easier to chat about. So that's one thing that's really helped. So that was what my process used to look like, and then now I have changed it so that I am, and I spoke about this in another one, but I really want to talk about this process fully here so that it's really helpful, hopefully. So I write a column / two blog posts. It's not really a column since it's on a blog, but I write 2 blog posts per month for a website blog called Advice from a 20-something. You are probably familiar with that website. Amanda's so lovely. She's the creator of it, and she's one of the bloggers that I first followed when I started my blog. So it's so cool to have her reach out to me and want me to write for her. Anyway, I've been doing that for like 6 months now. And so part of the process is that I pitch ideas for blog posts. I give a little brief, like, they never said I had to do this, but this is just how I've done it, how I decided I'd do it. I pitch a title. Titles often change. Actually, not really when I'm writing for someone else. When I write for me, I often end up landing on what I think is a better title. But I pitch a title. So what I'll do when I'm pitching, and this is going to be relevant because I'm now pitching to myself, I write a rough title, which is basically the name of the idea. Then I write 100 words about why this will help my readers, what have they been struggling with, why is this a solution for them, like how is it helpful? Basically is the question I'm answering, how is this helpful for my reader? And and when I'm pitching to Amanda, I'm saying how is this helpful for her readers, a lot of which are very similar to mine, but it's still tailored for her readers who have slightly different interests, though many overlapping to mine. But anyway, and then I go back and I often edit the title just to make sure it makes sense, and then I send that off to her and her team, and then I get a response saying, yes, you're doing these blog posts, this is when they're going to go live, and these are the due dates. So then I get that back, I write them, I send them before the due dates. That's that. There's like very little drama in it, in the sense, because like mind drama I'm talking about, because when it's been my blog, I've really personalized things and been like, oh, this is a reflection of me. And even though it's my writing with my name on it on her website, I feel that it's just been easier to not personalize. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, So a few weeks ago, and I vlogged this when I was doing it, I realized that it would probably be a really good idea to start pitching myself. So previously, as I was saying, I'd think I have to write a blog post, then I would pitch, then I'd try and think of an idea, and then I'd sit down and try to write that blog post straight away. And I was sort of always relying on how I felt in the moment, which I teach not to do. That's what I was doing. And so it was a really, really painful process. And even though I love writing, which isn't something I've always loved, but I love it now, I just really struggled. I also tried content calendars before, but when I tried them, I didn't pitch myself. Instead, what I did was I thought of all these different titles, which titles are really it's easy to come up with a title. It's harder to actually have solid content to back that title, and I don't want to post anything that I don't really think is helpful. So what I'd done is I'd filled up my content calendar with all of these great titles, and then when the time came, I was like, well, I don't have anything to say about this, or there was a bit of a disconnect there, so I wouldn't follow my content calendar, and then I just fall back into the old way. So I struggled with, I did multiple attempts at content calendars and never managed to do them. This is the first time I have done one. Part of it is also because I'm going to follow this content calendar no matter what. Not I hope I feel like it, I'm actually really committed. And I think that's a huge part that I was missing before. This is moving around a bit. So anyway, then, what am I trying to say? Sorry. So I pitch myself, and when I'm pitching, it's easier now in a sense as well, because I've done all of this stuff for advice from a 20-something, but I'm thinking to myself, just as a writer, when I'm pitching for them, I'm thinking as well, will they like this? Would this be helpful? And there are ideas I'll have that I won't actually pitch to them, but what I do is I just actually am really thinking of it only as what kind of content can I create, what would be really helpful, all of that kind of thing. I might look through my emails and see what you guys have been emailing me about, just often the same kind of array of topics just coming up in different ways. And then I'll have a think as well about any seasonal things like New Year, all of that. And then, so what I'm trying to do is I'm me being the writer, and then I'm me as the boss, telling myself, this is why it's so challenging when you're the only person in your business, because it's so easy not to put on the different hats and to try and be the worker and the boss at the same time. But that's when it's so easy to negotiate all your deadlines and not get anything done, because you're like, oh, we'll leave that to next week. Whereas now I'm so much more in the mindset of, my boss gave me this task. If it was someone else as my boss, I'm not going to be like, oh, do we really need to do that the way that I do with myself or have done in the past? So now I'm like, no, this is me needing to be a good employee, and I want to act the way that I want my future employee that I hopefully one day will have to act. And I wouldn't let them be like, do you really want to write a blog post? Let's just sit on the couch instead. And I get that they might feel like that, but I'd be like, no, I'm not paying you to sit on the couch. So why would I have that a different standard for myself? So really just stepping up my game as an employee of myself, which has been amazing because it's so draining to procrastinate. So draining. Okay, so this is what I haven't gotten into in previous ones because I hadn't done it yet. So the last time I vlogged about this, I'd just written out the content calendar. So I pitched myself, I brainstormed basically 20 different types of blog posts. I came up with titles, and then I tried to write a pitch. I wrote a pitch for all of them, the 100-word description. It's usually about 100 words, maybe 5 sentences, 3 to 5 sentences about why it's helpful. and what I would share, like a brief overview of what I would share. And then once I had all of that, then I had my calendar. I just did all of this in a Google Doc, and I made a little 2-column table with title and date. And I figured out I post every Sunday. I figured out the dates of all the Sundays, and then I went to my pitch like the boss would, and was like, these ideas are good for the business. And this is when it makes sense to post them, not like, what do we feel like? So I did that for blog posts. Then I went through again and did the process for email newsletters, because I send a weekly email out, which you guys probably know you would know if you're subscribed. If you are subscribed and you're not getting it, check your spam, because Gmail and everyone else makes it really hard to get into your inbox if you're trying to send out a mass email. So I like to share stuff in those emails. I share, as I was saying before, like what I'm watching, what I'm listening to, all of that. But I also like to have something helpful. Like, I'm not just sending it for the point of sending it. I like to have little kind of mini blog posts, that kind of thing. So I pitched all ideas for them, wrote out all these content calendars, and the other day I had, and I vlogged about this very briefly, but this is what I wanted to go through the actual process. I wrote 4 blog posts in 2 days, one of which, so probably total number of hours, 3 hours the first day and 5 the second, so 8 hours. So about 2 hours per post. And I'm so proud of myself for that, because, so that doesn't include scheduling it in WordPress. I always use Google Docs, and I use a system for managing Google Docs or Google Drive that I learned from Elle & Co. Pretty sure it's Elle & Co. She did a really good post about how to sort of keep things organized in Google Drive, and that's what I use, and it's really great. So I wrote my blog post in Google Drive, and then separately, because a different employee, well, if you think about, who knows, someone could end up doing both of these jobs, but writing a blog post is different to scheduling it into WordPress. It's different to creating a Pinterest graphic, all of that kind of thing. So, just saying low power mode. So previously, I would think of the blog post on the spot, hoping to feel inspired, write it. Once I finally got past self-doubt, which sometimes didn't happen, then I would create the Pinterest graphic, do all of that, schedule it, and then do it just all at once. But because I'm wanting to be smart with time, I'm batching things together. So I batch together all of the thought idea creation, which makes it so much easier when you've got like 100-word pitch about what you're going to write. It's like, oh yeah, I can actually write that, because to write the 100-word pitch, you have to have actually thought things through to a certain level. So I have the idea there to write, and all I need to do is to write it. And this has been such a huge lesson for me, because previously when I was writing, like, I would let myself do all sorts of crazy procrastination. And when I say crazy procrastination, I mean, like, as soon as I didn't know what to write, I would allow myself to get up, walk around the house, I'd have a look at my phone, whatever I could to get out of that uncomfortable feeling of like, I don't know what to write. Yeah, and basically I was procrastinating because I was just trying to avoid discomfort. That's what procrastination is. So when I sat down to write these posts, so I did as Brooke Castillo has taught me from the Life Coach School podcast, and I scheduled everything into my calendar, and what Kit, my coach, has taught me as well. And I gave myself 2 hours for each post. One of the posts I gave myself 2.5 hours or 3 hours. It was a roundup of 20 inspiring Instagram accounts, and those roundup ones and writing bios for people just takes a bit longer because you're like researching things as well. So I basically finished everything within time, because when I sat down, I was like, this is the time I have and I'm not letting it take any longer. So maybe one of them took me like 10 minutes longer than I had calendared in, but overall I was really like strict, and one of them took an hour less than I calendared in, which was also like, that would have never happened before. Anyway, so I had the amount of time, so I had a deadline, and if you are the kind of person that procrastinates, you have probably experienced the struggle that comes with not having a deadline, because then you can, mate, what are you doing? And you can really negotiate with yourself. So having this deadline and 2 hours felt achievable, but I knew that if I wanted to get it done, I would need to be 100% focused. Also, writing's so much more enjoyable when you stay focused, even though it's challenging. So what I did, I sat down, and the mornings of that as well, and this morning as well, it's nearly 4 o'clock. I haven't checked Instagram or my emails all day, and actually it's like starting to become a habit not to check it, and to be like, oh yeah, I really don't miss out on anything. It takes me 5 minutes to catch up on emails, like to read things. No, I'm not at a point where anyone's emailing me anything urgent. And I'm thinking, like, you know, if I was on a flight and I didn't check my email, like, everything would be fine. So that really helps me keep my thoughts together in the morning, because I find that if I'm reading emails, I love reading emails from you guys, but if I'm reading emails and looking at Instagram, I'm like, it makes me feel a little bit scattered in a sense, or it's more so like that I'm like constantly checking. It's like, oh, FOMO all the time, and I'm just like, no, stop doing that. I do 30 minutes of self-coaching scholars, Brooke's course, which kind of just gets me in the zone. And then at 9:30 each day, I started writing, and I didn't have my phone. Usually I use the Forest app to stop myself from checking it, but I was just in such a, like, why would I check it mood that I didn't need that. I just had my phone sitting nearby, and I was just, every time I, like, can I tell you how many times in those 8 hours of writing that I had the urge? It's not that I didn't have the urge to get up and go and check the fridge, to go and get a bottle of water, to go and pee, to go and do anything I possibly could to avoid having to write, to avoid the uncomfortable feeling of like, I don't know what to say. Or what would people think, which isn't as much of a thought for me now, but has been in the past. Like I would say at least once a minute for 8 hours, I'd have like an urge to like just get up and do something, to do anything but writing. So basically it was just, all my goal was to not give in to any of those urges, and to just be like, I feel you there, I'm just going to keep writing. If I did need a second to think, I just would sit there and think. I wouldn't like try and like, oh, I don't know what to say, I'll just check Instagram. I was like, I don't know what to say, let me figure it out. And it's just, it just feels so much better than procrastinating. And yeah, it has been crazy. Like just that I'm only finally starting to get it. I'm not beating myself up that it's taking me this long, but I'm just glad that I've been willing to experiment and to actually figure out how I work best and managing my mind. And I just feel like now when I'm writing, it's just much easier, because procrastination just sucks the life out of you. So yeah, so that's basically all I have to share today, because I am just about to get to work. But someone just ran out in front of my car. But yeah, I just feel as though it has been such a big change in the way that I've done it, and I just wanted to kind of share that. I'm gonna have a whole blog about blogging advice, because I know you guys, a lot of you really want to start a blog, but you need advice, and I know there's already a million people giving advice, but you guys seem to want it from me, so I will give you my advice. But yeah, I'm gonna be talking about this and helping you guys with time management and all of that. And yeah, I just think it's really cool that you can actually see my whole process for figuring this shit out. And yeah, so that when you're struggling, you're like, oh wait, that's fine. It doesn't mean I'm not gonna figure it out. So yeah, that's basically, just reverse parked. That's basically it. I hope you're well. Hope you're having an amazing day. I hope this recording has worked. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.